Hello my friends, welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to be doing my 1K YouTube subscriber Q&A. So I asked around, I got some questions and I'm going to answer them, and hopefully you will enjoy this because these are all questions that you asked me. So here we go. We're gonna do, but I'm gonna film like 5 questions in different spots so that you're not just looking at me in the same spot in the same sweatshirt. I mean, maybe I'll change my sweatshirt, who knows? Okay, so first of all, we're gonna go through the questions that I asked on my Instagram story. I had several of them there. So the first question that I have is from Bookish Kelly, and she asked me, who is the character you most want to have a Diet Coke with? Who is the character I most want to have a Diet Coke with? That is a real hard one, honestly. I feel like there are so many characters I would want to have a Diet Coke with, but I am going to go with Evie from Wolf Gone Wild by Juliet Cross. I love Evie. She's one of my favorite female characters. I think she is so fun, she is so sweet, and she's so funny. But I also really love that she's like super into comic books. She loves Star Wars. She's an artist. She is a comic book artist. And I just feel like sitting down and chatting with her over a drink would just be super fun. And then we could also talk about like, you know, her boyfriend, Mateo. That would be super fun. Okay, and then Bookish Kelly asked me, what is a romance you could give to, a romance you wish you could give to young Crystal? And I would say Brazen and the Beast by Sarah McLean. Like, I really feel like this is probably, this could come up in a lot of places, but I would love to give this to younger Crystal. Younger Crystal really was overweight, and she really struggled with body image and feeling confident and really feeling bad about herself, and she really struggled with having the courage and the bravery to go out and get what she wanted in life. And I just feel like if young Crystal had read Brazen and the Beast when she was a little baby Crystal, like a teenage Crystal, I feel like that would save her so much pain and heartache, and I think that it would give her the courage to really not settle for things and to feel proud of who she was right that minute and not try to change. And I love so many things about Hattie in that book, but I really specifically feel like her character arc and her story would mean a lot to young Crystal, and that's one reason why that book is one of my favorite books of all time. Okay, Morgan's Chaotic World, she also has a YouTube channel. She asked me, what is your favorite TV show and movie? Honestly, I hardly ever watch TV. I don't really love TV, and I feel like I have some TV shows that are just like my favorite that I watch over and over. Like The Office is pretty much, if I need a comfort show, I always watch The Office. And then The Vampire Diaries is probably my favorite TV show that I still just love, and the originals, but probably more The Vampire Diaries. And I also love any food show, specifically Great British Bake Off. I adore that show so much, and I just love it. Okay, and my favorite movie of all time is the 2005 Pride and Prejudice. This is probably not a surprise if you know me at all, because I love that movie with my whole heart and soul. It's so freaking good. Ewansville Cat from Instagram asked me, what was your first romance novel that blooded you? So I have talked about this a little bit in some of my videos, and the first romance novel that I ever read that really kind of opened my eyes to what romance novels existed was Montana Sky by Nora Roberts. And then I feel like a romance novel that really got me interested in reading specifically romance novels is Easy by Tamara Weber. I read that as soon as it came out, and I haven't read it since, and I know it's very old. I think it came out in like 2013 or something like that. I don't remember. I'm gonna look. Yeah, that came out in 2012, and I remember I saw the cover and I loved it, and I read it and binged it like all at once. And I think that was the moment, because I think like I was reading adult romance novels like Nora Roberts and stuff like that, and I loved those. And I read Laurel Spencer, I read Jude Devereaux, I read Catherine Coulter, and just, you know, really enjoyed those. But when I read Easy, that was when I finally felt like I found a romance novel that was like around my age group and was something that I could feel like I could more relate to. And I just really, really loved the whole idea. I think that was right when New Adult was kind of first happening too. And I just fell in love with New Adult indie romances at the time. And that was literally all I read for years. But Easy was the very first book that kind of showed me there was more to romance than traditionally published romance. Not that there was anything wrong with that at all, but there was just something about that indie romance college age that I just absolutely loved so freaking much. So both of those books. So Nora Roberts, and then Easy is the first one that I remember reading that was a New Adult type of romance, and really, really setting me on a binge looking for indie romance authors. And Lila Knits and Reads said, can you tell us more about your fitness? How cool that you won a competition. So I have always been really into fitness. Like I said in my first question, that when I was an early teen, like a kid, you know, from the time I was a small kid until I was probably 16 or 17, I really struggled with body image and having confidence. And I was definitely an overweight kid. And so when I was about 16 or 17, I think it was 16, I had a high school gym teacher who was surprisingly very inspiring to me. Like I don't know, like I had a lot of terrible gym teachers, but she specifically was really encouraging for me to try and be an athlete. And so like whenever we would run the mile, she would always encourage me, and I hated running the mile too. You know, why don't you try and get a little faster? Why don't you try this? Like she talked to me like as if I was an athlete, even though I was this girl who'd hated fitness and was kind of overweight and really not confident and was only doing it because it was an assignment. But her really kind of setting that fire in me and encouraging me to act like an athlete really just lit a fire in me. And from that point on, I wanted to be an athlete. And so I started running. I didn't compete, but I would run long distance. And I got a gym membership when I was in high school. And I quickly kind of hedged into some disordered eating habits, and I got to a point where I was really, really unhealthy and was very underweight, and was, at that time, fitness wasn't something that was empowering to me, but it was something that I was doing to try and get as skinny as possible. So I came out of that after, you know, I don't ever feel like you recover from something like that fully, having disordered eating habits, but I got out of that eventually. I got married, had kids. Once I had kids, I really wanted to get back to fitness. And so I started running again, and I got into long distance running, and I got into competing in long distance running, and I would run half marathons and I trained for several marathons. And I ended up getting a really severe injury from running a long distance. And it really devastated me because I just had found something that I loved, running, and then all of a sudden it was like, okay, you can't run anymore. But here's what you can do to try and get back to be able to run, and it was lifting weights. So I got into lifting weights to try and rehab so I could run long distance again. But it wasn't very long until I discovered that I absolutely loved the process of getting strong and working for strength goals more than I liked endurance running. And I feel like there was a big shift in my mentality, whereas forever when I was trying to be an endurance athlete or a runner, my whole goal with that was to try and get smaller. And then when I shifted to be a strength athlete and really focused on weightlifting, my goals changed to eating enough to build muscle and eating enough to fuel my workouts. And you know, you can't diet and gain strength, like you just can't do it. So that was really beneficial for me to overcome those disordered eating habits that I had. But there was a point in my weightlifting journey before it got to that point where I was really back in that disordered eating area and was struggling big time. And I found a fitness program online by Jessie Hilgenberg. And I watched one of her videos, and in her video she said that she believed that women don't eat enough and that they are constantly trying to get smaller, and she wanted to help women to be more and not less. And it like hit my heart, and I was like, this is for me. So I entered her competition. It was like a 3-month competition, and at the end she picked me for the winner. So I got to go and meet her and train with her in person, and I got to go to a bodybuilding competition, which was extremely cool. It's called the Olympia. It's the biggest bodybuilding competition in America, which was super, super cool. So that is kind of the story of how I got interested in weightlifting. I've had a really bumpy road and sometimes a not very healthy relationship with fitness in my body. Hi, different spot, 5 questions. So this question is from Dana, from To All the Nerdy Girls. She also has a YouTube channel, Dana Quadrado. She said, how do you juggle your artwork and make such amazing content? And I will say that I don't know that I have a good answer for that, and I definitely feel like I don't do it very well. I don't know. I feel like as far as making booktube content, like I just really have just found this love for this, that I just am always motivated to make videos, and I just really like doing it, and so I kind of make time for it. And also, like, we're pretty much home all the time, and I can work whenever I want. Like, I can work late or whatever, and so I kind of set my own hours for that. I definitely try to like stick to like one filming day when it's not Vlogmas, where I batch film a couple of videos all at once. So I'm thinking all week of what videos that I want to film for that week, and then I make lists and I get books that I want to talk about, and then I film them. And then throughout the week, usually I'm filming something for a vlog. So when Vlogmas is over, I still want to hopefully do weekly vlogs, and those I just will film bits and pieces throughout the week. And editing takes quite a while, but I also really enjoy the creative process of editing. Like, I really love looking for cool camera shots and putting it together in a pretty way. And so I just think that that's fun. And I guess I just feel like pretty much the only things that I do, like I read and I make my art for my business, and I make videos and take care of my family. So I don't know that I really have a good answer for this. It's just something that I've always done, and as far as like trying to juggle my artwork, like that's something that I started my art business when my oldest son, who's 19 now, was not quite a year old, and so that's just something that I've always kind of trained myself to do, to be able to fit in work whenever I needed to. So if that meant when the kids were sleeping, or if that meant staying up really late to do it, I would do it. And I think that it helps to, like, listening to audiobooks helps me have content to be able to talk about when I want to film bookish videos. And so I feel like if I had more time to sit and physically read, that would be awesome. But most of the reading that I get done is usually through audiobooks, and being able to sit down and read a book physically is like the ultimate treat for me. And so I usually save books that I'm most excited about reading physically. So yeah, I'll just say that I don't know that I don't think I juggle everything well. I'm always usually, if I'm doing good at one thing, I'm usually doing bad at something else. So something that I don't do very well is housework. But I don't know. I don't have an answer. But thanks for the compliment, Dana. She also asked me, are there any huge authors you feel guilty for not having read? Ooh. Kind of, yeah. Like, I feel like I should have read Judith McNaught and Lorraine Heath. Lorraine Heath has definitely been for historical romance, on my radar. Like, I definitely want to get to her ASAP. I have several of her books I have waiting to get to, and Judith McNaught is just one of those that I feel like you kind of have to have read. Also, Joanna Lindsay. I haven't read her either, and I've just kind of been avoiding it. And then as far as like, I feel like Cora Riley is an author that I think is pretty popular that I haven't tried, and I feel like there are probably a lot of indie authors that I haven't tried recently because I have I've kind of had a hard time finding a lot of them that I kind of vibe with for indie contemporary romance. So I don't know if that answers the question or not, but those are the authors that I haven't read that I kind of really want to. And what is your favorite food? Dana asked me so many questions. You're so sweet. My favorite food is pizza, but I don't have it very much because of the glutens, which is sad. I know you can get gluten-free pizza and gluten-free crust, so I also really love, like, tomato soup. I know that's super weird. And I love grilled chicken, honestly, and anything chocolate. Brownies, peanut butter. I'm a peanut butter freak. I love peanut butter. So, I'm basic, but yeah. Dana also asked, is there some location you want to travel because you read it in a book? I really want to go to Covent Garden. I really want to go there to England because I know that's a real place, and I would just love to go there. I think it would be so awesome. Also, I've never been to England before, so that's something that I really want to go to. I also want to see England because of Pride and Prejudice. Like, I want to go into the mores and such, you know? Okay, next question. What has changed about your reading in 2020? This is also from Dana. Dana, I love you. Okay, what has changed about your reading in 2020? I definitely feel like I read more. Also, probably the biggest change for me reading-wise in 2020 is that I stopped reading books that I felt like I should read. I stopped reading books that I felt like were smart books, you know, like books that were like literary. Like I kind of let go of that feeling of like, if I want to read a YA, I'm going to read a YA. If I want to read an indie romance, I'm going to read an indie romance. So I let go of that feeling of these are books that I should read, you know, like I just kind of pushed that out the door. And that has been probably the best change to my reading. So I really have devoted a lot more time in 2020 to just getting back to reading romance because that's what I love most and that's what makes me happy. And I just feel like 2020 really helped me to get rid of like a lot of those feelings of what I should do because people think I should read this or I should do that. And I'm just like, F off. I'm going to do whatever I want because I want to do it. So that has been the biggest change, is just letting go of those feelings of you should read this because it's a smart book or because it's like I'll be taken seriously. Like I'm like, whatever. I don't really care. I'm just going to read what I want to read. So that's been my biggest change. Okay, and Jen from the Book Refuge said, what made you start your channel? And honestly, like, I don't really know. So I started my channel in August, like mid-August, and honestly, I started watching BookTube in like, I think early 2018. I started watching BookTube in like January 2018, or actually it may have been the fall of 2017, like, because I remember some of the first videos that I was watching were the end of the year videos, and I just was in love with BookTube, and I would watch it just like all the time. It was always playing while I was working. It was just like, I just fell in love with it, and I loved the idea of just getting to sit and talk about books, and I really was shy about starting a channel because I don't like the sound of my voice. I felt like the editing process seemed like something I would never be able to grasp or handle. I didn't know anything about filming, like microphones, cameras, all that stuff. I didn't know how to set up a channel. I felt like I didn't have enough like technology, like I didn't have a super fancy computer, or I don't know. And I also felt like I didn't have enough like interesting thoughts or ideas to share. Like, I don't know. I just felt like I didn't have anything special to offer BookTube. But then like I did like the reading rush in July just because I had a Bookstagram. So instead of starting a BookTube, when I found BookTube, I started a Bookstagram in like 2018. And that was fun, but it really wasn't giving me like the connection that I wanted. And I think part of that was because I was reading almost all YA books and I didn't feel like I fit in with that crowd, you know? And I wasn't really loving all the YA books that other people were loving. But I also just felt like I didn't really fit there, you know, like I didn't really make friends. I didn't really have a ton of people that I was connecting with when I had started my Bookstagram. And so then this year when I changed to reading romance, like I found my first Sarah McLean book in July and I read Rogue by Any Other Name and I fell in love with it. And that was really what kind of got me interested in just devoting all of my time back to romance, because I've always been a romance reader. Like I started reading romance novels when I was, you know, we talked about that before, about how Nora Roberts was my first romance book. When I was like 14, I read that. But then, you know, I went through life and I went through these phases of feeling like I had to read important books, and no, you couldn't read romance, and it had to be like really literary, or when YA became popular, like that's what I had to read because everyone else was reading it, you know. And I do still like some YA books, but it just never felt like it was a good fit for me, you know? So this year when I read Sarah McLean in July, I think it was July, it may have been June. It actually may have been June, because it seemed like there was just a lot of bad stuff happening in the world, and I found that book, and it was just like the escape that I was looking for. And what was the original question? What made you start a channel? Anyway, and I saw Jess's videos. I watched Jess from Peace Love Books. I've been watching her videos since I found BookTube. And I saw her talking about a lot of her historical romance book hauls, and it just looked so fun, and I just thought, maybe I could do this. So anyway, I talked to my husband, and I was like, I kind of want to do a YouTube channel, but I was like kind of scared to do it, and he has always been so encouraging of any of my interests, and he was like, you should do it. you should do it. And so he would like do some research and send me like articles or links to cameras we could look at and things like that. And it just like his belief in me that I could do it, that it was something I should do, like helped me feel like, you know what, I think I could do this. And I really feel like without him encouraging me and helping me to really believe that I could try to do it, I wouldn't have started it at all. So it was really a combination of feeling like I wanted to be part of a community that I felt like I would fit in better, and that was the romance book community, and watching Jess's videos and feeling like I think I want to actually do this. Like, especially I think it was her book haul, her historical romance book hauls that she was posting, and I just thought I could do that. I could talk about books that I buy that are fun, and that was one of the first videos that I ever made and posted. But yeah, it was a combination of those things, and then my husband just saying, just do it. And I just thought, what do I have to lose? So I did it. And I quickly became accustomed to the sound of my voice. So if that's something that's holding you back, like how you think you sound, just like get over it. Anyway, that was why I started BookTube, and I think it's one of the best things that I ever did. It has brought me such a wonderful community, and I feel like I have made some of the best friends that I've ever found through Romance BookTube specifically, and I'm just super, super happy to have found this little community and that I actually had the courage to start it. Different location, different shirt. Is that making this funner? Okay, Heather from HEA Booktubes asked me, how long have you had your Ariel hair? I've had pretty much every color. As far as like, I've been blonde, brunette, black hair, you know, like I've kind of had it all. And I had black hair in 2018. It was October. It was like right before Halloween. And so here's a picture, hopefully, here's a picture of me with black hair. And I decided I wanted to have really fun red hair. I went to the salon and they did this. This is what it looked like at first. It took some time to really get bright, and it didn't actually get this bright until I started coloring it myself. So I color my hair myself now. I'm not a professional at all, but I am much more happy with how it looks now, the color it is now, than how it was when I used to get it done at a salon. So thank you, COVID, for forcing me to figure out how to color my hair myself. So I color my hair about every 6 to 8 weeks. It just kind of depends on how long I can go with my roots being like a mousy brown, because that's what my natural color is, like a really dark blonde, and I don't like it, which is why I color my hair all the time. What was your first historical romance? So my first historical romance, honestly, I don't quite remember, but I do remember reading like some medieval romances that were of my mom's, and they were either by Laverell Spencer or by Jude Devereux. But after those two, my very first historical romance that I read was The Duchess Deal by Tessa Dare. More recently, I read that one, and that was what really got me back into historicals, and I read that earlier this year, and I just absolutely loved it. And since then, I've just become completely obsessed with historical romance. I love them. So I did read some when I was a teenager, and I was reading like my mom's books, and I read Laverell Spencer and Jude Devereux. I wish I could remember what they were. I know for sure I read some Jude Devereux ones, and I've tried to find the cover of the exact book that I read, but I can't find it. But the one that got me into historicals recently was The Duchess Deal by Tessa Dare. Okay, and this question is, what is your favorite fantasy romance? What are some of my favorite fantasy romances? And I would say my very favorite fantasy romance is A Heart of Blood and Ashes by Milla Vane. That is my favorite fantasy romance of all time. I also really unapologetically love Sarah J. Maas fantasy romances. I love House of Earth and Blood, Crescent City. I'm super looking forward to that. I love her A Court of Thorns and Roses series. A Court of Mist and Fury is honestly a wonderful fantasy romance, which I feel like everybody knows about that. I also really love Radiance by Grace Draven. I love A Promise of Fire by Amanda Boucher. I think that's a fantastic fantasy romance too. I feel like it can be kind of hard to find great fantasy romance. I like Laura Thalassa's The Bargainer series. That one is a good fantasy romance. Oh, I also love Fortuna Sworn. That one is really fun fantasy romance too. So yeah, those are the ones I'm gonna go with. Those are some of what I think are my favorite fantasy romances. I really like those a lot. So the reading year of Hattie, my good friend Sophie asked me, will you do things differently in 2021? Different goals, more or less read-alongs, or etc. So I think that I don't know that I'm going to do a lot differently in 2021 as far as how I read or what I read, other than I have noticed that when I commit to too many like readathons, read-alongs, buddy reads, that I definitely tend to feel pressure to read, and that makes it less enjoyable for me. So I will probably step back a little bit from those and only really do them when I feel like it, I guess, for lack of a better word. But also, I feel like those add so much to my reading experience. I feel like you get a lot of great conversation and reading insight from doing group reads, read-alongs, and readathons can sometimes really push you to read new things or to get a lot of reading done. So I don't know that I will change that a whole lot. Something in 2021 that I want to do more is to read more authors, like expand the authors that I read. I really want to have more of a variety of the romance authors that I read specifically, especially in historical. I'd like to find some new historical romance authors, and I would really like to find who my favorite indie authors are, my favorite indie romance authors are, because I don't really have a ton of indie romance authors that I love. Juliet Cross is definitely my favorite. I really also like Pam Godwin and Mariana Zapata for indie romances, but yeah, I would really like to find more of the indie romance authors that just really hit me the most. And then I also definitely want to do better at writing a review for every single book that I read, and maybe even doing individual video reviews for books that mean a lot to me. So those are kind of how I see my reading changing. Books with Samantha asked me, what is your all-time favorite drink? So, my all-time favorite drink is definitely Starbucks peppermint hot chocolate, like full fat, full sugar, all of it. Like, I think that is just the most delicious drink in the entire world. I love hot chocolate, but I really don't drink that anymore, mostly because that much dairy. I'm allergic to dairy, to lactose, and I also try to avoid sugar, which is why I do a lot of sugar-free drinks. So probably my favorite go-to drink now is, like, y'all are probably gonna know this for sure, but it's a Diet Coke with sugar-free coconut and fresh lime juice. That is my 100% go-to drink. I have one almost every single day, unless I am kind of getting sick of it, but I always come back to it. That's my favorite drink for sure. I would like to be the kind of person that says water, but I'm not. I have to have a flavored drink, preferably no sugar. Books with Samantha also asked me what's my favorite video that I've filmed. That's a tough question. I don't really know that I have a favorite video that I filmed. I think my favorite, like, I don't necessarily have a video that I'm like, oh wow, well, that's not true. Like, I really love the Get to Know the Romance Reader video. That was a ton of fun to film, and I felt like that was, I don't know, I liked the shirt I was wearing in that. It was fun answering the questions. I liked that. My favorite videos to make are definitely vlogs, just because I love the immediacy of talking to you as I'm reading the book. I think those are my favorite to film. I also really like the artistic part of vlogs where I can try and find beautiful or interesting B-roll for like montages of stuff I'm doing or what I'm drinking. Like, I like the creative aspect of that. And I like my recommendation videos a lot too. Like, I'm really proud of those, even if they're always like growing and changing. I feel like those recommendation videos are. But I'm really proud of those because it took some time for me to narrow down and be specific about some of the romance books that I like best. So I think that is, I guess the specific one is the Get to Know the Romance Reader, and then I like my romance book recommendations, and then any of my vlogs probably, whenever you're watching this video, probably my most recent vlog is one that I'm particularly proud of. And Books with Samantha also asked me what's my favorite part of doing YouTube. My favorite part of doing YouTube is, I think it's really the community, honestly. Like, I love, and that's another reason why I like vlogs. Like, I'm super passionate about vlogs. I mean, maybe you know this, but I feel like you get the chance to know me, and I feel like when you comment on the vlogs that you're watching that I make, then I learn more things about you, and I feel like that's a really cool way for us to connect. And I feel like you just don't get that a lot in sit-down recommendation type of videos, even though I love those too. But what I love the most about BookTube specifically is getting the chance to build a community and make connections with people, and that's why I like vlogs so much. And my least favorite part about doing YouTube is probably It's not anything specific to YouTube, but it is definitely like the exporting process of my videos. Like when I export my videos, that doesn't use internet. So it depends on having like a fast, efficient computer. And my computer is a few years old. And I use Premiere Pro to edit my videos, and so that is probably one of my most stressful times, is when you've spent all the time and work editing a video on my computer, and then there's always this part of me that's like worried, like, is it going to export good? Is it going to be something that I can export and then upload to YouTube and watch? And like there have been a few videos where I have spent hours editing them and trying to get them just perfect, and then something happens with Premiere Pro in my computer and the export doesn't work out, and I just honestly about cry when that happens. So that is probably the thing that bothers me the most, and yeah, that's the thing that I don't like about YouTube the most. And it's not exactly YouTube specific, but it is about the process of making videos. Favorite book cover? Oh goodness, which one is it? The question is, what is my favorite book cover? Thank you, Samantha. My favorite book cover, let's see if I can even find it. Okay, here it is. I feel like I have several, but this series in particular has some of my favorite covers in the world. Stupid bangs are separating. I love these. The Uptown Girls. Oh my gosh. Like, I am obsessed with these covers. Like, I think the models are gorgeous and I love the dresses, and I just feel like there's so much emotion, and this series has some of my favorite covers ever. So there's this one. I have the physical books of all of them. There's also this one. This is the last book in the series, and I just adore it. I feel like it's so pretty. And then this is The Prince of Broadway, the second book, which is over there, and I don't want to get it, so I'm just going to put a picture of it right here. This series has my favorite covers, and I just love them so much. So this next question is from Avery Loves Books, and she said, what is a romance book that you love that you feel like nobody else talks about? And I talk about this book a lot. But the book that I feel like everybody is sleeping on is Baron by Joanna Shupe. I love this book so much. It is such an underrated gem. It is just top tier, enemies to lovers, fantastic hero obsessed with the heroine. I just love it so freaking much. And the reason I read this was because I did the Fall for Joanna Shupe read along with them, and I think that all three of us, Kelly, Dana, and myself, loved Baron, but it was definitely hit or miss with other people. But for me, I want more people to read this. Okay, and this question is from Liv the Book Nerd. She said, what do you dye your hair with, and how do you keep it so vibrant? So I knew this question was going to come, and I do get quite a lot of questions about my hair. I do dye it myself, although I didn't go from my normal color to this. Like I said earlier, I went to the salon. I went from black to sort of like red, and it took a long time to get this vibrant. But what didn't get this vibrant until I started dyeing it myself, and I use L'Oreal High Color. I'll put a picture of it right here, in magenta, and I use this with 20 or 30 volume developer. And I'm not a beautician. I'm not a beautician. I use that in magenta, and you have to mix it with a developer. And when I first did it, I did a 30 volume developer, but I have kind of eased back on 20. I want to use the least amount of developer on my hair to keep it as healthy as possible. So that is what I use to color my hair, and it is a huge mess. And yeah, if you can go to a professional and get it done, that's probably better, but I started dyeing my hair because of COVID, and I just have liked it so much that I've stuck with it. And the way that I keep it so vibrant is that I will sometimes do like a semi-permanent color on it, which doesn't damage your hair at all. Something like Manic Panic, or I can't remember, Ion Color Brilliance, semi-permanent. I do that in between when I use the High Color because it's not damaging at all on your hair, and it does kind of just brighten the color up. But the biggest thing that I do, and no judgies, okay? The most important thing that I do is that I don't wash it very often. Like, I try my hardest to only wash my hair once a week, other than my bangs. Like, I wash my bangs in the sink probably every day or every other day, and I do use dry shampoo in my hair too. But the more that you wash your hair, it's just really gonna dull it out and dry it out too. And because the color is so hard on your hair, I try my hardest not to damage it, so I don't use heat. Like, I don't use my flat iron pretty much ever, unless, like, if I use my flat iron, I use it once a week. And I wash my hair once a week because I want my color to be vibrant and I don't want to do any more damage to it. So I minimize heat, I don't wash it very often, and I sort of use that semi-permanent color in between regular dyes to help it stay vibrant. It won't do anything to your roots. Semi-permanent color doesn't affect your roots at all. So when you have it grow out, like, it won't do anything with that, but it will sort of pump up the color on the rest of it. Anyway, I feel like I've learned a lot about how to color my hair this year in 2020, but I'm not an expert also, I'm just saying this is what I've done. Okay, and this question is from Sydney, from Sydney's Shelves on Instagram. She said, how did you name Cosmo? What's his story? So Cosmo is our giant schnauzer puppy, which if you've watched my videos, you've probably seen him, or if you've been on my Instagram, you've probably seen him, and I think he'll be in the thumbnail of this video too. So he's our giant schnauzer. He will be 2 in February. We got him in April when he was 8 weeks old, and we love him so much. He actually is my youngest son's dog, who is 12. He spent a summer working and saving up money to have his own dog, and he waited and worked and was really patient and tried really hard to earn enough money and show us he was responsible to have a dog. So he is technically my youngest son's dog. I also obviously help take care of him, and we all love him very much. He's with me most of the day because my son is doing school and stuff like that, so he's often with me when I am filming videos, which is why he's usually loud. He's actually sleeping right now because I've been talking for so long. But he decided to name him Cosmo because his mother's name was Bring Back the Magic, and so he just thought that Cosmo was going to be a really cute name, that it was kind of magical, and I don't know, he debated back and forth for a lot of weeks about what he wanted to name him, but he decided to go with Cosmo for that reason. We have had giant schnauzers for 15 years. We get giant schnauzers specifically because my husband is very allergic to dogs, and he is an asthmatic also, and this breed of dog is actually the one that he can tolerate fairly well, although I have to make sure and keep them clipped short, and also my kids vacuum daily to help my husband with his allergies and his asthma. So I would love to have other breeds of dogs or to rescue dogs, but we have kind of had to stick with giant schnauzers because that's something my husband can tolerate. And once we had our first giant schnauzer in 2006, he was also a male, and his name was Chauncey. I'll put a picture of him on the screen, and he was the love of my life. I loved him so much. He passed away in 2018. He was 12 years old, and he just was my whole heart and soul. And so I had been contacting breeders a few months before he passed away because I kind of knew that his time was getting short with us, and I also knew that I would probably be on a waiting list for a dog for a very long time if I wanted to get a puppy from a specific breeder, and I'm very passionate about the purebred breed of giant schnauzers, and I wanted to make sure that I was supporting a good breeder and not a puppy mill or anything like that. So I had been contacting breeders, and when my Chauncey died, it was very I mean, you know, we knew it would come someday, but it was still a shock and unexpected when it actually happened. And the next day, I got a call from Cosmo's breeder who said, I have a litter of puppies that is going to be born in February. Would you like to be on the waiting list? And I said, yes, absolutely. So we got Cosmo in April when he was old enough to leave his mom. He was born in Kentucky, and his breeder flew him out here, and we picked him up and have had him ever since. So that is the very long story of Cosmo. Okay, and this is going to be my last question because I feel like this video is getting super long and I don't want to bore you guys. I did get a ton of questions, to be quite honest, and I am honestly like amazed that you guys asked me, and I hope that this isn't boring. If you would like to see a part 2 of this, feel free to let me know. If not, that's okay too, but I do have more questions I could answer. So this question came up quite a lot by several of you, and it was, what is you and your husband's meet cute story? So this is kind of, I think it's really cute because it's my story, but so when I was in high school, I worked at the mall in a sports store, like a sports memorabilia store where we sold like jerseys and hats and team shirts and all that kind of stuff. And I worked there, and they had like a food court in the mall. So I would, I would go to the food court at the mall to get lunch. And I was 18 when I met my husband. I had just barely started college, my first week of college. So I was 18. My husband worked at an automotive upholstery shop behind the mall, where he would put like convertible tops on cars and fix and build upholstery seats for like classic cars and things like that. And it just so happened that he was also at the food court getting lunch for his work, and he saw me several times when he would come have lunch, I would come have lunch. I never noticed him. He said he saw me. So that is where we technically met. And then we started college at the same time, first semester, both of us, although he was older than me. And we both happened to have this big break in between classes, and so I would go to the library instead of going home. I still lived at home when I went to college. I would go to the library and study or read, and so I had this big table that's brand new to college, out on my own kind of for the first time, and honestly, I had kind of just been through like some crappy experiences with dating guys, and I was just really over dating, and I was like, I'm gonna focus on my career, I'm gonna go to school, and I'm gonna be a career woman, you know? So I'm sitting there studying, and my husband walks up, sits down at my table, and just starts talking to me, just starts having a conversation with me like we knew each other. And it was such a unique experience to have a guy who was a very cute guy come up and just start talking to me like he wanted to hear what I had to say and didn't just want to like flirt with me or hook up with me. And we ended up having like a really great conversation, and I just remember being like completely blown away with him and how polite he was and just how interesting he was, and also like he was hot too. So it was just honestly like, but it just set him apart in how he just sat down and started talking with me. Anyway, so it was coming time for when I had to go to my next class, and I had to pee also, which he also brings up all the time to make fun of me. And I had to pee first before I went to my class. So I got up and I said, okay, well, I guess it's time, you know, I gotta go. And he's like, oh, okay. And so he got up and started to leave, but he didn't ask for my number or anything like that. And so I'm sitting there thinking, this amazing guy who I just had the best conversation with, who is also super good looking, is just gonna up and leave? And I was like, no. And so I gave him my phone number and I said, here, call me. And so he did. And then he asked me out on a date, and that's pretty much history. So when he called to ask me out for a date, I remember I actually had a date with another guy, but I didn't really like him. And so I said, can we go on this day? And he's like, no, I can't go on that day. Little did I know, he already had a date with another girl on the day that I said, can we go on that day? So we were both kind of like avoiding dates with other people and trying to be together with each other. Anyway, that is our meet cute story, and the rest is history. We've been together ever since. We've been together for 21 years. We met when I was 18, and he is the love of my life, and I couldn't be happier with anybody else than I am with him. So this ends the Q&A. Thank you so much for these questions. I hope that you enjoyed getting to know me a little bit better. And a huge thank you so much for all of my subscribers and all of my friends who have shared me. I know that a lot of booktubers specifically have shared me and shouted me out, and I know I could not have reached this goal without them. So thank you so much, specifically Jess from Peace Love Books, Bree from In Love and Words, Jen from The Book Refuge, Jesson from Jesson Reads Romance, and I'm sure lots and lots of other ones have mentioned me, and I just love and adore you, and I am so happy to be part of this romance community. So thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys in my next video.